Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 5 today for the Miami Grand Prix for the very first time on this game and in the career series. Of course, we did take to the Miami GP circuit in some of the preview builds of this game, but in the My Team car, at this early stage of the career, it may be a much more difficult challenge, a very different circuit to when we went out in the Ferrari, was it, in the preview video. If you guys did miss the previous episode of this series at the Imola Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because that was a truly biblical race, the best race we've had yet in terms of entertainment value, and then also some real shocking results, some shocking strategic decisions by certain teams, and a really mega drive, because at the end of it, with our first F1 sprint also in the books, but by the end of the proper GP on Sunday, spoiler alert, we obviously got a bucket load of points. Drogovic did as well, as it was a double points finish for myself and Felipe, which was great. It's the first time the team has scored 2 points paying positions, and for us it was a lofty P4. I could only dream of a P4 this early on in the season. Like, I think maybe in the next couple episodes, you know, if we don't get any kind of massive luck or miracles like we got at Imola in parts, I think you guys will realize how much of an incredible result P4 is. It may have seemed like, you know, things went our way and we seemed pretty comfortable around Imola, but I think so many things had to go right, and the scenario of the wet track, Red Bull's bad decisions, you know, we placed the car perfectly where we needed to when others were tripping up over themselves, just made for an all-round perfect and great execution of that race, and it's going to be hard to match ever, you know, a perfect race like that where we made every decision pretty much correct, and that result could end up being very crucial towards the end of the year, depending on how the teams around us, our rivals, you know, McLaren, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, how they're upgrading. And speaking about upgrades, we're still looking into that, so we've got just under 1,000 R&D points here, not quite enough to purchase the weight reduction upgrade I was having a look at, and also an air upgrade, because we don't have any discounts on the front downforce, and the drag reduction also, the next upgrade is quite expensive. So we're going through the timeline event to head to the Miami Grand Prix weekend, and in the middle of the race weekend, after practice, we're going to go back to the R&D screen and look at making an actual purchase, because right now I don't have enough R&D points to make the next purchase I would want to make. So we go into Miami then, and we've got another Pirelli hot lap. Now this one is autocross, I think they call it, so this is almost like a checkpoint through the gates, but it's kind of like slaloming. You saw a bit of it in the preview videos we did. I think we did one at Spain, wasn't it? I think in one of the preview videos before the game launch. So this is that kind of challenge again, where you have to pick your line with this very wide and cumbersome supercar. I say cumbersome relative to the F1 cars, of course, and really having to make sure you're close to the gate as possible, but not touching it, because if I do hit one of these cones on either side, that adds to my time. And of course we need the gold, a 1 minute 18 here, and you can see there's quite a lengthy stretch of the circuit to go through, and some of these slaloms are very tight in a car which does not have the same turning force as a Formula 1 car here. Yeah, feels very slow in parts, and you can see right here tightens up on that exit, and then here kind of gives you some false confidence of flooring it, but then the gates tighten up again, so I have to slam on the brakes, kind of look ahead of me and see where the next gate is coming. A little bit iffy on the rear end as it steps out, tiny bit of drifting. That's no bother though. The last couple of gates, and then it's going to be the home run, the home stretch, and this will be enough hopefully to get through to gold. I wasn't sure if that was the finish or not. It is though, and that's about a 116, I think, something. So we get the gold, we get the 1,000 on the acclaim, and 100k, and we master the autocross challenge, I think it's called, here at the Miami GP, and I think we'll be met with another autocross one at the Spanish Grand Prix, I think. But that one was, I think that was a little bit easier than the one at Spain, because I remember the one at Spain was so, you know, zigzagging across the circuit, but also at the same time, I didn't have the same amount of speed. Here in Miami, this one was a bit more high speed, so when you did have to turn direction, you had to slam on the brakes and make sure you picked the line right. So there is a decent amount of challenge depending on which Pirelli hot lap event you get. I feel like this autocross one is maybe a little bit easier than an average speed zone. Even though I kind of, you know, smashed average speed zone before, it's quite tricky. You do have to think about your racing line in a challenge like that to keep the speed up. Whereas this is more just about controlling the car, which you just need to be, you know, get kind of out of the F1 mindset and back into the mindset of you're driving a slower supercar. But practice comes and goes, and we earn a load of R&D points and plenty of discounts. And now the drag reduction upgrade we wanted to look at is under 1,000, but I've reached my capacity limits because I've already got a rear wing upgrade pending. So this is the annoying thing where we don't have the HQ facility upgrade. That gives us 2 simultaneous upgrades. So in the end of it, we move to the chassis side of things. We have enough R&D to purchase a major weight reduction upgrade. So when that comes in time for Azerbaijan, that stretch of Azerbaijan to Canada, that's a perfect time for that kind of upgrade to come in. That's going to feel so great having a much lighter car at those 2 circuits. So pretty good timing actually, and not too disheartened, because once that rear wing upgrade's done, we can then go ahead and purchase that discounted drag reduction upgrade. So we're slowly getting there by reducing the weight, reducing the drag of this car. Downforce wise, I think we're actually at an okay level ever since we did that front upgrade. The balance is okay in terms of the setups. We can add a lot of downforce, but we're being bogged down by the drag still and the weight of this FOM My Team generic car. So still having to do work there, and I think this race weekend you're going to see that problem in a big way here at Miami, because we're here in qualifying, and in Sector 1 I actually feel really good. The car feels nailed on through these high-speed corners. It's just at slow speed, still a bit twitchy in the last sector, but then down this straight, I think we're losing quite a bit of time. I think a combination of the drag, the weight, and then also the ERS. I think other teams obviously clearly have better ERS deployment. You know, they're able to deploy better around the lap perhaps. I think we're noticing that in the race, definitely for sure, off the acceleration zones, a lot of slow speed corners. But I think here at Miami, just from what I've seen already in quali in this session, I think that's something we're going to have to, you know, struggle with a bit in the race. But we'll see how bad it is in the race. But I think the aero balance, I think I've maybe put a bit too much downforce on this car in qualifying, which felt good in quali in Sector 1, but in the race may come back to bite me. But as we're starting our second flyer, then Gasly overtakes us to begin his flying lap before us. They're a little bit cheeky because I did get let through by him just before then in Sector 3, and then he re-overtook me just before the lap began. But it's fine. We can use him as a bit of a yardstick to kind of follow his racing line a bit, learn a bit from another AI driver, and it helps us a little bit with the confidence there, because I wanted to keep up with him on the throttle pedal, and we chuck it in real aggressive, and we gained, well, 2/10 on the entry, then lost a little bit. Overall, though, then into this section, as we go through and just wait to apply the throttle pedal, we end up gaining just about 3.5/10, I'd say, on that exit. Down the straights, lose a bit. In the brake zones, we're losing a tad as well to the AI and just generate at slow speed, but we're going to gain a decent amount off the exit, and we'll be 5/10, just about 4.6 by the end of it. So again, losing speed, top end speed, as we cross the line. But I thought that was a pretty decent margin that we gained there on that second lap. But it was only enough for P19, so I was left a bit disheartened there. Drogovic did make it through into Q2 with P16 there, and we are 4/10 off him. So I kind of suspected we would be a bit slower than our teammate in quali, at least, because Miami, it's a new circuit. Generally, I don't know about you guys, for me, when there's a new circuit on the F1 game, for the first game it's on the calendar, I'm never as quick as my AI teammate in quali. In the race, it's a different story because you have DRS, you have fighting, and also lap after lap, you get more comfortable. But that first quali session on the new track, I'm just never fully on the pace. But I think we can maybe do more in the race. I think there's more time on the table for sure in Sector 1, because I could tell the car was gripping. I just need to find the right racing line, which I was still figuring out as we did those quali laps. So there's more to come. Let's go to Sunday. Let's hope that aero balance isn't too bad between straight line and downforce, and we'll just give it our all as always.
Welcome to the Miami International Autodrome, home of the Miami Grand Prix. This exciting track circumnavigates the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the NFL outfit, the Miami Dolphins. Sitting at the southeastern coast of Florida, the Miami International Autodrome has 19 corners and 3.36 miles of racing. It's a circuit designed to encourage close racing while meeting the highest safety standards. Either way, I am sure it's one which will please the fans. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who will start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, George Russell and Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Gasly, Magnussen and Esteban Ocon, Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty, Norris, Yuki Tsunoda and Ricciardo, Vettel, Drugovich, Guan Yu Zhou and Alex Albon. The owner driver, Latifi, Mick Schumacher, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And now it's time to head down to the track. And with me as usual is Anthony Davidson. Can we begin by having a chat about Charles Leclerc? Looks as if they have a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the grid.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
Right, race day is upon us for our very first Miami Grand Prix in a career mode on the F1 game. And I'm a little bit nervous, like I said, because of that aero balance. I think we've put a bit too much downforce on the car with this setup, and generally our car is still draggy. And I just think we're going to suffer a little bit on that back straight. I think Sector 1, though, we could be quite good. So the first lap could be quite punchy, and then from there, we'll see how well we could do to defend cars. You know, Drugovich showing there's a bit more pace in the car, so I'm hoping we can at least try and close up to him a bit in this race. And, we'll see what we can do from there. I don't think we're going to have another Imola race with no rain on the way or anything like that, but it is a new circuit. You know, everyone's getting used to it, so there might be a bit of carnage and chaos, I'm hoping, and that could elevate us a couple of positions. But let's form up the grid, and we'll just give it our all in the first laps, especially, like I said, in Sector 1, try and make the most of our setup and the downforce and grip we have. And I actually overdo it for the first time. I try to take a bit too much on the grid slot, so we get pushed back for a reset grid lineup as we go to 5 red lights then for our very first Miami Grand Prix in my team career mode. Lights are out and we're underway. Albon with a good start tries to block us off, but then in the second phase into turn 1 we're able to be side by side, but we're kind of almost awkwardly boxed in with Guan Yu Zhou on the left. Latifi's made a dive bomb to overtake 3 of us, and he's up into P17. I have a go at Latifi. I get the Alfa Romeo whilst we do it, and we make a double overtake in the end on the exit of that left to right hander, and then into the heart of Sector 1 we're up into P17 behind Sebastian Vettel, who I did think made a bit of contact, I think, with some cars, so I think he's got a bit of damage potentially on his end plate as we go around the outside, waiting, now slam on the throttle, and we do him on the outside, but I think that's because he's got some damage there, Sebastian Vettel, so unlucky for the 4-time world champion in the Aston Martin, but he's going to be pretty rapid on the straights, and already you're seeing the AI mug me off in a straight line as we're on the outside. Vettel, oh no, Vettel goes for the dive, the lunge, and gets more damage on our teammate Felipe Drugovich, so he's definitely going to have to make an early pit stop as we're now tucked up behind our teammate Felipe Drugovich here, having a squabble into team battle, and this may be, well, one of the most interesting battles we have this entire race, maybe, depending on how our race pace is going forward. But early doors, lap 2, can we get ahead of Drugovich? He's holding the line, he's going to go to the inside, but we're going to go further to the inside, and to my surprise, he actually opens up the door. I thought he would squeeze me and kind of force me to go to the outside, but no, he actually kept to the racing line and let me go down the inside there. So I don't know, maybe just being a good teammate, to be honest. Meanwhile, Leclerc here in P10. I didn't mention it before the race, but if you're watching the grid sequence closely, you would have known already that Leclerc had a grid penalty. I think he was on the front row, but he started outside the top 10 due to an engine component change. So this is a massive race for Carlos Sainz, his teammate, but also, more importantly, Verstappen and Red Bull after a shocking start to this season for them and a great one for Leclerc, where he's won every single race so far, by the way. This is a massive chance for Verstappen to get some good points over his rival Leclerc. It's a good chance for Sainz to get himself into the championship fight, maybe, because he's consistently been second fiddle to Leclerc. So this is an open goal for either of them to get a win or the second place and get a load of points, as Leclerc gets caught up in traffic and may find it hard to limit the damage and get a load of points. Meanwhile, lap 4 closing up to Daniel Ricciardo. Now, he is our in-game rival at the moment, so he will get some more acclaim if we beat him. So we've already got Drogovic, but this may be the next best battle we get in this race. Closing up, and we've got some really good grip in the corners, but then here, this section is just so difficult, no matter how much grip I've got actually right now, despite heavy fuel, the car feeling cumbersome sometimes. Even in the last sector, I feel quite punchy, but we just can't make a move because the track's so narrow and it is single file, and down the straight, Ricciardo just minces us and pulls away. But like I said, as was shown in qualifying, we've got some good grip in Sector 1. We're going to use that to our advantage to now be able to go down the inside of the Australian, and we've made the move before even the next sequence. I would say straight, but it's a series of very subtle curves as we get close to the walls here in Miami, downtown Miami. Ricciardo, though, will come back at us. He's got the straight line speed, despite making a great overtake on the inside. We'll stick to the racing line and try and break as late as we can to make a move. Ricciardo locks up, and we've gone for the switchback, and we've got the re-overtake. Ricciardo bottling it on the inside there, going even later than I was, and locks up, but it won't matter because on lap 6 he gets past us again. So even though I was quite euphorically celebrating at that moment in time, I'm not going to lie, with the really great, satisfying switchback move on the Aussie man, he's able to breeze past again on the back straight into a new lap. Lap number 7 again. We'll gain a bit in the first sector, close back up, probably try and go for another overtake, and at some point he'll overtake us again, but it does take us 3 laps though. I'm finding sometimes it's not as easy to close back up. It takes you a couple of laps, just like in real life, you know. You have to let the tyres cool, let the car cool down, recompose, and you go again a couple of laps later and re-engage in the same battle you maybe were in just a couple of laps before. So yeah, a couple laps later on lap 9, now we're there in Sector 1. We've got enough overspeed with the DRS now on this back straight into the final sector and section. Can we go to the inside? Ricciardo doesn't go defensive to my surprise, and we're able to get to the apex, go swing by wide, but he comes back at us though as he's made the switch. Had a little look, but didn't hold it through right round the outside there. I thought he would do, but no, he hasn't. And so we're able to finish the move off, but you can see he's right up our chuff, and through this corner, the AI is so much quicker mid-apex and then off it acceleration-wise, and then Ricciardo is there with DRS to make the move as Albon is out this session, but it's not just Ricciardo that comes through to overtake me. Schumacher comes to make a late lunge, so we might lose 2 places as we keep to the racing line. Schumacher with a dive down the inside, bit of contact there as the 2 wheel bang in front of me, and so now it's Schumacher versus Ricciardo, but the Haas is a quicker car than both of us. Schumacher's recovering in this race because his teammates up in the top 10. Meanwhile, Leclerc's made his pit stop to come in early for an undercut as these two are really going hammer and tong as they make more contact, a little bit more contact again through the right-hander. Can we catch Ricciardo unawares? At this point, I've already accepted Schumacher's overtaken both of us. We're now re-engaging in the fight with Ricciardo. Schumacher's in a much quicker car. The Haas is so good right now in this early stage of this series, so there's no way we're going to be looking to fight Schumacher. But can we use the fact that Ricciardo's maybe preoccupied looking at Schumacher too much to re-overtake him? I mean, you know, just for the sake of it, I know he's going to probably have a good chance of re-overtaking us again on the straights, but you've got to fight what's in front of you, and right now, lap 10 laps in, all we've been doing is fighting our in-game rival Ricciardo. To be fair, kind of does prove the in-game rival is quite accurate in terms of the decision that the game made us choose between him and Lando. We chose correctly because we're fighting him so much in this race, side by side through that entire section as he locked up, but we weren't able to finish the move immediately. We had to get it done just before the kind of Mickey Mouse section of that very tight chicane under the bridge. But again, you guessed it, Ricciardo comes through. You can see I'm not deploying too much ERS because I don't have a lot to use, and I'd rather use it to try and overtake him again. you know, if I used it to defend on this straight, let's say, he would just mug me off into turn 1. So it's a bit of a catch-21. Right now, there's a lot of things going on. We don't have enough pace in a straight line with the engine. We've got too heavy of a car still. We're not that slippery in a straight line. We need to reduce the drag, and our ERS just drains so quickly versus probably a team like McLaren. So it's been a real tricky race, really just battling Ricciardo over and over again, and we'll just keep on going. We go for a very punchy move on the outside, so close to his rear wing and the gearbox there, but not making any contact. And if anything, this is just kind of, you know, good practice in combat, trying to, you know, brake as late as we can versus one of the latest breakers in Formula 1. We go for the big lunge on the last corner, trying to maintain track position ahead of Ricciardo, even though he overtook us there on that back straight as usual. But he's come in now for his pit stop. We will continue on because I don't think the tyre wear's too horrendous on these mediums, and I just want to kind of maybe see and give a chance, like in real life. Remember George Russell at Miami? Just in case there's a safety car, let's stay out. Alonso overtakes us with ease. We kind of let him by because he's not in our race. He's already made his pit stop, and I'm kind of in the middle of all these guys. But you can now just see, you know, the pace difference of Alpine, AlphaTauri, Norris, and the other McLaren, because they've already made their pit stop and they're right by me, and I'm only now just coming in on that 15 onto 16. So yeah, we stayed out, but there was, alas, no safety car. We didn't get the same luck in the rub of the green as George Russell did in real life. So we're in for a set of hard tyres. It's only a good turn in though, so that was a little bit annoying and frustrating. And we will lose out to Ricciardo, of course, because he's been on fresher, even though they're hard, fresher tyres. They've been able to give him some good grip. But now we have fresher hard tyres than he does. And as soon as they get up to temperature, we should hopefully start to catch. But that's going to be, you know, it's going to take a couple of laps for them to heat up. They're so difficult to light up and switch on now, such is the kind of the tyre construction. But the safety car is out now on lap 17 after the bloody pit stop, and it's a crash that's definitely not going to be liked by Pierre Gasly, as he's out of the Miami Grand Prix. The safety car is out. There it is, and we will have to pass it because it's trying to pick up the leaders, of course. So that's a bit frustrating that it's come out after we just made that pit stop onto hard tyres. But we're down here in P14, and it got me thinking, you know, I looked at where we'd come out if we made another pit stop under the safety car. Why don't we just go onto the soft tyres, I thought, and then I decided to do just that, because we've got new soft tyres to burn, because we didn't make it through into future, into, you know, the next qualifying sessions yesterday in Q2 and Q3, and we're P14, 0 points. What's P14, 0 points, going to make a difference to P18, 0 points? And the difference there is, I genuinely think, as we have a mistake on the pit stop under the safety car, won't matter because we are under safety car, so we'll close back up to everyone. But, you know, I reckon with the soft compound and everyone else pretty much on the hard compound, I think we should actually be able to make up those 4 positions and get back to P14 easily. And then from there, everything's a bonus of what we do, because we're going to be stuck behind Ricciardo, or stuck fighting Ricciardo all race long on the hard. So as long as we get up into P14 now in this next lap or two, everything else is a bonus and is actually going to be a positive to this gamble on the soft tyre. We make a massive dive bomb on Sebastian Vettel, such is the grip difference I have on the softs versus hard tyres. So if that's the kind of dive bomb I can make on the Aston Martin, I think we could be having a pretty fun end to this race. We've only got 8 laps to go. We're on softs, everyone's on hards. This could be quite fun, and this is where the real race begins in a way for us here at Miami, as we go around the outside of the Alfa Romeo, dancing around the outside on the soft compound. Bottas has also joined us on the softs, it would seem, there in P14, as we now close up to Drogovic for the second time in this race. Can we overtake our teammate? Maybe on the inside, as he gives us the space to work with. Yes, he will. On the inside we go. Oh, there's a big crash for Ricciardo. Ricciardo's had an incident. He's hit the back of a car, and he's out of the Miami Grand Prix, and he brings a second safety car in just 1 lap, not even a full lap, pretty much 2/3 of a lap, as that was Ricciardo creaming into the back of one of the Haas cars, or Bottas, I think it was, in the Alfa Romeo, and Ricciardo is out. So we're going to definitely beat him in terms of our in-game rivalry, but a very odd incident there. Ricciardo, oh my, just gets it all crossed up and all wrong, and it's going from bad to worse for the Aussie man in the McLaren there. But nice to see, you know, a very, you know, big mistake from an AI, but, you know, how many times do you maybe see that sometimes in online F1 lobbies? So a very player-like mistake from Ricciardo. They're getting all crossed up, hitting the back of the car ahead of him, who was kind of concertinaing and slowing down. And so now on the exit of the second safety car period, we've gone green again. We're up into P13, and now we're going to make a dive on Schumacher to get up into P12. So we were already a net positive from where we were on the hard compound. So everything now is a massive bonus. And with 5 laps to go, you know what? Tsunoda there looking a bit slow, holding up Perez. Could we overtake the Red Bull? Could we be overtaking Tsunoda for points? Perez is slow, and we've caught him out as Tsunoda held him up. An absolute treat. I don't know what's going on with Yuki. Has he got damage? I suspect he does, or he's just very slow on those hard tyres to light them back up after the safety car period. But we go for the move with a bit of ERS. We've got a lot to use, so we are going to have to kind of spend a lot of it to get past Tsunoda, because he looks pretty damn good in a straight line. The AlphaTauri on the inside, he locks up, and he's going to fight Perez now behind us. How long is it going to take for Perez to overtake us, I wonder? We'll have to see. But right now, somehow, out of nothing, we're into the points paying position. We've got one championship point now to fight for, and there could be more on the table, because Lando Norris locks up into the final corner. Magnussen and Ocon chasing after. We're there in the background as well. We're not too far. If these three fight each other, we could get involved. So just like that, one safety car or two safety car periods have changed the race for us. A gamble onto the soft compound tyre, and now we're racing for points here in Miami, which seemed like it was an impossible thing earlier on. But look at this, the grip we've got at the moment on the soft compound is unreal versus the hard tyre. Could Magnussen be the next car we're looking to overtake? Maybe even the McLaren up the road in P7. At the moment we've got some really great pace, but eventually the tyres will wear a bit, so we need to kind of get a move on, make the moves already, and then try and defend like an absolute animal at the end of this race. We send one down the inside of Magnussen in the same way we overtook Ricciardo earlier on in the race, but the difference is we may have a bit of battery to help. I've actually dumped a lot of the battery, even just catching up to Magnussen, to be honest, and also catching up to Ocon previously. So we're back down to, you know, very small numbers of ERS percentage. And lap 27, yellow flags ahead, but you can see now I'm struggling on the rear end. Bit of snap of oversteer on the curb, and the tyres are going off now. So we're having to look behind us and defend as, oh no, Max Verstappen is out of the Miami Grand Prix. You are kidding me. In a race where I think Leclerc's only as high as, I think, P4, which is still a pretty damn good recovery, to be honest, from the man from Monaco, being outside the top 10, but it was still going to be a good load of points for Verstappen versus Leclerc. But now it's going to end up being Leclerc gaining more points on Verstappen, despite, you know, where he started, and it may just give Carlos Sainz his first ever victory in Formula 1, because I believe he was in the lead still. Verstappen, I think, was in second, and he's retired from there. But for us then, lap 28 onto 29, it's unfortunately this back straight is just a nightmare for us. Magnussen cleanly through, and our tyres are now wearing out, so I don't even have that to fight in the corners. Because on this lap, you know, one lap previously, we were about, you know, maybe 8 tenths behind Norris. We were now 2.5 behind him as Magnussen overtook us, and you can see how sheepish we are on the rear end. And now Ocon is gaining, and even though we've got DRS open, Ocon makes a move on the inside, such as the overspeed he's got in the Alpine and the lack of ERS battery and just grip hold off the corners, because, yeah, now the soft tyres, it was just a bit too long for the softs. But we gave it a good go, and still, even though I sound disappointed, I can't be. I was in P13 on the hards behind Ricciardo. We're now fighting for P8 at least, so that's still a massive win. We're still going to get points in this race, but Sainz is indeed going to go on to get his first ever victory in Formula 1 ahead of a double podium for Mercedes. Meanwhile, for me in P8, we are really, really struggling now. The tyres are going off a cliff, and we have got no pace down this straight, and we've got no DRS, no ERS to use, and now Perez is coming back through. Ocon might even as well. Could this be back down to just one championship point? I think it might be. Ocon and Perez have got us both, but Ocon makes the dive, and he's slowed up Perez, and we've hit Perez on the rear end, but only because Ocon slowed him down, and I wasn't ready for Perez's rear end to be there. So in the end of it, a chaotic end, and we still end up with P8. thank you to Ocon there, because what happened was Ocon hit Perez and his rear end stepped out, and his rear end stepped out then into my front wing, and that's where the contact came, but that helped us get into P8 then, so in the end of it, I'll take it.
Here we are then, a phenomenal Miami Grand Prix, and what a great show of skill from our race winners today. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So it's Sainz's first ever win in Formula 1 in this alternate F1 universe of ours that has already branched away from reality. It's been all Ferrari. Leclerc has won every single race up until this point, but now it's time for this Spaniard's turn to be on the top step. It's a double podium for Mercedes. Perez, he was nowhere after, I'm guessing, some damage maybe. You know, that's why he was fighting us, basically. I think he'd made an extra pit stop there. It was out of sync of everyone. And then Verstappen with the DNF. What a horrendous weekend for Red Bull in a race where I thought they were going to capitalise on Leclerc being outside the top 10 with a grid penalty. And Mercedes, Hamilton P2, really lofty for him, bouncing back well from some difficulties earlier in the season. Russell, though, with that third place, gets up into third in the championship. He's ahead of Verstappen in the championship. That just says it all. It's been a woeful start to the season for Red Bull. Even without, you know, you can factor in the performance patch and the fact that Red Bull needs to be made quicker in the base game, and hopefully the patch will come sooner rather than later. But even then, Ferrari's AI R&D upgrades have been more than Red Bull's team. So even then, maybe Ferrari would still be there catching up to Red Bull, even if Red Bull started the quicker team. And also Red Bull have had horrendous reliability so far, so it's not been going great for them. And for us, the fact we got P8 somehow, we finessed the P8 out of what looked like a very difficult race for the first half of that one, I can't complain whatsoever. That we've actually done a madness there, getting points in such a difficult Miami Grand Prix circumstance, thanks to the two safety cars and that soft tyre gamble. So guys, if you have enjoyed that one, hit the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.